No gym? No problem. Here's how to get a side flip in your backyard with just household items. The first thing you want to do is get permission from your parents or whoever owns the items that you're going to be using. If they're yours, then don't worry about it. But I'm sure my wife would kill me if she knew that I was using our outdoor furniture to, learn a side flip or use it for a tutorial or something like that. But, oh, I thought I heard something. But after that, you want to assess your space. I'm filming this on a day when it was cold and wet and muddy. So I grabbed like a stone tile thing from my grilling area and put it in a wide open space so I know that I'm not going to hit anything else. I only did this because if I try to do a side flip, I'm just going to absolutely slip. So you don't need to do this if you have like a dry area. Then you want to grab something like this that's super low to the ground. I'm talking like 1 or 2 feet off the ground. I'm using our ottoman from our outdoor furniture. We're going to start by doing a parkour roll or a shoulder roll over this. You don't want to do a roll forward because that's not how a side flip works and you're going to roll over your spine and stuff. So we're going to do a shoulder roll. If you twist to your left, then you should roll on your right shoulder. I'm going to show you on both sides on this because I side flip both sides, but left is actually my good side and right is my bad side for my side flip. If you twist left, should do right side though. It's just an anomaly from when I was first learning things. If you don't have a parkour roll or a shoulder roll, then you can watch my How to Fall Guys video from my beginner week. Link in the description and the card. I can make a more detailed tutorial if any of you guys want it. Just leave a comment down below and let me know. So depending on the size of the object, you guys are gonna wanna roll on like the front end of it because you wanna have enough space to roll across the entire thing. But if it's too short and you start kind of in the middle, you're gonna drop off the end of it and you're not gonna be able to land properly. Same thing for if it's too long. If it's too long, then you're just gonna roll and land on top of the thing. So first you need to gauge like where you actually wanna drop off of. So for me, that's just putting my shoulder on it instead of actually putting my hand on it and then rolling. Make sure that for this, you do not tuck your head underneath, that you tuck your head to the side, because then it's gonna initiate that side rolling motion. And that's why side flip is one of the safest flips that you can do, because you don't go over your head that much. Even if you like bail it, you most likely won't land on your head. You'll land on like your upper shoulder blades area. So once you have that measurement down, all you gotta do is do a parkour roll or shoulder roll over that object and get used to it. The reason I want you to have such a low obstacle is because it's gonna get you used to tucking. You're gonna have to tuck super tight or else you won't be able to land. Tutorials have to be fast paced because, YouTube, but I wanna stress to you that any of these steps you can do like 50 to 100 times. No one expects you to be perfect, especially not the first try. Or at least I don't. But once you're comfortable rolling over that, what you're gonna do is you're going to try to land turning your hips a little bit more towards the direction that you're twisting. So in this case, you wanna turn a quarter turn to your left so that you're landing with your hips perpendicular to your momentum. The reason you're doing this is because that is the actual rotation you're gonna make to make it a side flip in the air. A side flip actually starts a little bit forward and then turns sideways in the air. You absolutely can do them completely sideways, but especially for learning, it helps if you start a little more forward, because a lot of times what happens is if you start too sideways, then you'll actually rotate backwards when you do it, and then you're not gonna have a good time. Once you're super comfortable with that roll and you've turned that quarter turn, then what you're gonna do is try to make it more of a dive roll. So for me, because I have something I'm landing on, I'm moving that backwards. It can be helpful to actually mark your takeoff place for you. So even if it's not muddy, it might be helpful to mark where it is, even if it's chalk or a stick or something. But either way, you're backing up your takeoff point and trying to dive a little bit into that roll. This is gonna simulate the reaching that you'll do later for your side flip. When you start doing dive rolls, it's going to be really easy to place your hands forward and go straight forward. So make sure you watch out for that. You want to make sure you land your hands and then you turn that shoulder and still go sideways and land facing that direction. It's a good checklist of knowing that you are doing all the right things and practicing the correct way. Now for the next part, you're going to tuck. This is one of the hardest parts for most of my students to learn because we're so low and the timing is really fast. But if you're doing a side flip, you're gonna have to be moving pretty quickly. So what you're gonna do is you're going to tuck to land. So you're gonna reach, do that dive roll, and then as soon as you know you're rolling and you've hit your shoulder blades and you are initiated and starting to tuck in for that roll, you're gonna grab your shins. I like to grab over on my shins instead of under for a side flip, but if you like to grab under or it feels more natural to grab under, that's also totally fine. Either way, grab your shins and still do that turn and try to land facing that target that we've established before. And then this is where you want to start backing up, where you take off even more and starting to run into it. So just do a small jog, and then you kind of want to place your feet 1, 2 rather than at the same time. 1, because it kind of helps you gauge how slippery a surface is before you actually take off. So it's kind of like a safety feeler before you actually push, as opposed to like a punch where you can like slip because you're hitting both at the same time and then you're committed to it and you're in the air. It also helps you like roll your momentum better and then send it up rather than, again, with a punch, it will work on concrete. Don't listen to the haters, but I still think the 1-2 step is a little more efficient and it can help you understand like pops and pop setups a little bit better anyway. But run or jog into it, do your dive roll, do that tuck, land facing that one direction, and then we're ready to move on. Now you want to get rid of that first thing and grab something that is a little bit higher up. For me, I grabbed my table, and this is only about like my mid-thigh height. You want something ideally around like your kind of nipple height to shoulder height if you can, but you can also like work your way up like I'm about to in this video. You'll see in like 30 seconds. Also, this table I'm using is pretty rickety. It's not super stable, so like do this at your own risk. Like ask your doctor something, I don't know, ask your parents, make sure you're not gonna hurt yourself. I'm just showing you with what I got. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a medical professional, this is not legal advice, just be careful and train safely. So with that being said, I want to center all of my force in the middle of the table when I roll on it, not push forward too much or push backwards too much. I want it to be right in the middle. So to make sure that I had that down solid and I didn't like tip over my table, I put my landing pad like a little closer to it, so that way even if I'm running, I can make sure that like I don't tip it. I have full control over it. But then you just kind of reset and do like a roll over it, do whatever roll feels comfortable. On this one, I didn't tuck it first. Then start tucking again until you're comfortable with that. As we start to like drop off of this thing, it's gonna be really hard to like get our chest up. So even if you're like tucked up and you land low, that's not bad. But as you're starting to drop off and as you're getting more comfortable with it, try to like pick your head up as you're coming down. Then if like me, it's too small, go and grab some padding or something to elevate it. Just make sure it can stay on there stable. Stack it up, do your roll, stack it up again, do your roll, and keep sending it higher and higher until it's like your nipple or shoulder height, like I was saying. This is where you really want to hone in that reach. You're going to run and do that like split step like I was talking about, or punch if you want to, and then you're going to reach up like pretty high up. Think about it like Superman taking off, right? But you also want it to feel like you're kind of jumping over a barrel at the same time. I'd recommend running up to it and just practicing this a lot because it's going to feel really awkward at first. But essentially all you're doing is taking that dive roll you were doing forward before and converting it upwards a little bit at kind of like a 90 or 45 degree angle and dive rolling up and over that thing that you're using. In my case, a table with some couch cushions on it. When we start jumping this high, it can get a little bit scary. Even I freaked out one of these times. Luckily, you and I have the reflexes of a cat, and we just practice rolls for like 45 minutes. So just roll out of it if you mess up. At this point, you are doing a side flip just on top of this object. As you get comfortable with this, I'd recommend moving your landing pad back a little bit so you're really like diving out into it. So drill it, drill it, drill it, drill it until you feel like super comfortable and it feels like second nature. You could even do this over a couple of days. You do not have to try it all in the same day. But once you have this down, you want to try and go like over the obstacle. So really try and like put all your effort into that jump and that reach and that tuck, and think about not like side flipping down, but think about bringing your hips up to where you are putting your fist. So that way you can side flip up here and rotate on top of or over your whole obstacle set. And then once you feel really confident, move your landing pad close to your obstacle set again. So then you focus on vertical momentum and really try and go over that obstacle. Don't forget to pull your head up at the end or else you're gonna land pretty heavy and low. If you land in a tucked position, it's gonna kind of hurt a little bit or just feel gross and not feel like a really efficient, good flip. Once you feel like you can do it pretty darn well, start taking away pieces. For me, I just took away one of them and really tried to focus on like pretending that one is still there and then do a side flip like at that height or over that height. And then I just cleared the obstacle, and hopefully you will too. So you can either progress your way down or just get rid of the whole setup, then just mentally prepare yourself and do exactly what you've been doing this whole time, but without any obstacle, and then hopefully you got a side flip. Common mistakes for this: not jumping enough. Jump more. Solved. If you feel like you absolutely can't get enough height, you literally just need to condition more or jump more often, and then you'll be able to do it. Next common mistake. The next one is not tucking enough. Tucking is super, super important to a side flip until you're at like an elite level and you can do it pretty open. If you can do a full squat, then that is basically the exact tuck position for a side flip. You either tuck over or under, whatever your preference. But if you do not tuck enough, your legs can kind of stick out like a D leg and just like really slow you down. So make sure you are tucking super tight. Something I feel like a lot of beginners don't understand is that people who are good at flips, we don't really try less. It just gets easier to try that hard or that amount, if that makes sense. So it's like if I go like kaioken, it's really hard to do kaioken at first, but it doesn't mean that later on when I get better at kaioken, I'm not still putting that amount of effort in. Does that make sense? It's still boosting my power level by like 2, 5, 10, you get the picture. So all I mean is you need to put 100% of your effort into the jump and 100% of your effort into the tuck and 100% of your effort into the open of the tuck. You need to do each component really hard so that you can have like a really good looking side flip. If one of those pieces is lacking, you can be doing the first two really, really well and then just like forget to untuck and your side flip won't look as good. The next most common mistake I see, which is also the most dangerous, is turning too much, like I mentioned before. If you're like accidentally doing like a Jonah or a Kendo kick or something, then you are not doing a side flip. This is why I was saying that you want to kind of take off forward with your chest and then turn as you're jumping or as you're in the air for the tuck. Because a lot of times what happens is humans naturally will turn their hips anyway. So if you run up and you go completely sideways to do your side flip, and then you throw that arm, you're already rotating backwards, and then you turn your hips for the tuck, and then you're going like this, backwards. I've seen it so many times. Please do not do that because you can seriously injure yourself. Like, seriously. Side flip is pretty much the safest flip that you can learn unless you do this. So to remedy that, just start forward or like a little bit forward. And then as you get better and better at it, I'm talking like 6 months to a year, then you can kind of like start sideways and do like standing sides and stuff like that by being completely sideways. But you gotta like really have it intuitive before you start trying to go completely sideways. So that's all you really need to know for a side flip, at least for this method. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions, like the video if it was helpful for you, and watch one of these videos so you can actually see the potential of a side flip. Please stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you guys next time.